Thank you. Thank you, ICFA, and all other supporters. It's been a wonderful day. Yesterday, we had discussed about the possible opportunities at a high level, and this panel discussion starting today will go deep into some of the key pillars. If we can summarize yesterday's discussion into 4 key pillars, it would be technology, policy, people, and institutions. So today we are going to discuss in this panel about policy. So thank you. I welcome Mr. Baba, Mr. Dr. Iyad, Mr. Rajveer Rati, Dr. Narendra Dadlani, Dr. Jitendra Kumar to the panel discussion. And as a good quality, the moderator should speak less, so which I will do. So let me ask the first question to Mr. Baba Ahmed. He's not here. Okay. Dr. Iyad Takrori. ETG has been a very well known in the global commodity landscape. As you've seen both the input side and the output side. So referring to your experience, if you can mention what are the key challenges in terms of policy, especially in doing business between India and Africa, the policy changes both in terms of mutual acceptance plus any other thing that has probably not come to our attention right now. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the question. Actually, as you know, ETG, we're working in about 35 countries across Africa. So yesterday there was a very nice discussion that when we say India, it's one country. When you talk about Africa, we're talking about 55 countries. So there are major challenges, I would say, when we're working across all of these countries. One of the first things is that we're working with 45 jurisdictions, each one with a different aspect of regulation, laws, and working requirements across all of these countries. So one of the major challenges is the regulation. So when we have, and I have my colleagues here and we're doing the operational part, when we're importing seeds from India, let's say to Kenya, then there are certain regulations and requirements, but then if the same seeds have to go and continue to Uganda or Rwanda or any other countries, we have to follow additional regulations and laws. So one of the major challenges we're facing is actually the regulations and the policies. We need somehow to find a way how we can harmonize the regulations to make it easier to export seeds from India to Africa. That's one of the major challenges. An additional challenge is actually, and I've been talking also here across to our partners, our suppliers, our colleagues who are in the industry, is the portfolio. You know, in most of the companies in India are trying to push the portfolio that they already have in India into Africa. Which is sometimes can work in certain crops. We can talk, for instance, about okra. We can talk about some specific crops that are originating from India. But in reality, the breeding should be more done according to the needs of Africa. So, and we are doing breeding. So besides that, and we have our breeder who's also sitting here. So what we're trying to ask the Indian companies is to try and breed for the African needs, which we're doing in our maize portfolio. And this is an additional challenge. A big part of why the Indian companies are not doing it was shared already yesterday, is the proprietary rights or the ability to establish companies, Indian companies in Africa. And this can be mitigated, of course, if there are clear agreements, bilateral agreements between India and the African countries, whereby it's allowing the the Indian companies to have full ownership in Africa, protecting the property rights, protecting the needs of the Indian companies to do actually the investment in Africa. So this is a second challenge that we're facing. And of course, I can talk about other challenges like logistics, supply chain, and other things. I mean, with seeds, we are transferring living organisms, and they need to be really well protected from the source until reaching the farmer. And the infrastructure to manage that is challenging, and there is a big chance for improvement and development in that part. We have a serious challenge when we're transferring seeds and finding refrigerated containers, for instance, or finding direct lines that can shorten the speed of delivery from India to Africa. And it comes with a cost. Usually this is coming with a cost and so on. And I think among also the additional challenges is the certification and preparing of the documentation. When you're transferring a living organism, we need to have all the required certificates, phyto certificates, ISTA certificates, and so on. And the time to prepare these locations of the infrastructure in India to support this for export purposes can definitely grow and develop. So this is something where we see some parts of India are easier and faster in preparing these documentation and certification and sometimes legalization, while in other parts of India it's a little bit challenging and it takes a longer time. And one final thought we're having is upon clearing the goods. So we see that if there is a way really to harmonize the regulations between India and the other countries, we can go to something like when you go in an airport and go through the customs through the green lane, so there is no issue. This is something where definitely a forum like this, interaction with the different parties involved, both the authorities, custom authorities, and so on, to speed the clearance. I mean, I don't understand why do seeds need to stay for 1 month in a bonded in an airport until they are released, especially when we're talking about some hybrid seeds, you're talking about a small carton or something. So these are some of the challenges that we're facing. We can talk about other things like building capacity, building competency, and other things, but these are the major ones.
Understood. I think the key words I can pick up from your brief is one, harmonization, plus harmonization between India and Africa, plus harmonization within Africa itself, plus having a seamless pathway between the two continents. Actually, the sheer size of Africa is actually quite amazing. I can quote something from our Vedic literature also. Africa is known as Kushadvipa. So we are in Jambudvipa, Bharatakanta, but Africa is known as or referred to in Vedic literature as Kushadvipa. So we have long cultural ties. We just need to regenerate or renew the relationships. Now, coming to Mr. Rajveer Ratti, who is also a vice chairman of Federation of Seed Industry of India. The question would be that more or less the socioeconomic dynamics plus the farmer land holding size and many other climatic factors are common between India and Africa. So in your opinion, what we can do to ensure farmers in India as well as farmers in Africa, say breeding for Africa, get the same high quality seeds and varieties and also at the same time protect the breeders' innovation and rights? What do you think we can do?
Thanks, Raghavan, and good morning, everyone, and thanks to ICFA for organizing this. And I think the question to you, what you had asked, I think answer lies in this room. And the answer is that we all are sitting over here trying to find the solution. So everyone can clap for that. So that at least that stage we have reached it over there. So Thank you for that. Now, two questions, pertinent questions, you have raised it, and probably I'll pick up the first one, picking with what Dr. Yad has just mentioned over there. If you look at, we share a lot of common things when it comes to Africa. I will not generalize Africa as such Africa, because then it becomes a little misleading. Like, what we are talking in Africa, I think we should also be very clear. That's number one, right? And that's where you will find the commonalities, even within India, if you compare, look at the diversity right from north, east, and southwest, besides crops, landholding patterns, climate, and so on and so forth. And of course, the landholding is just one critical factor. There are already commonalities which does exist, and I may not be wrong, still there are a lot of Indian companies whose presence is there, but as you rightly said, that need to be more formalized, need to be more recognized, and need to be more fast streamlined when if I pick up on a word on the harmonization word, and I know that today the kind of the wisdom and the kind of tools which are being available in terms of putting or developing in new varieties, I think we have crossed that stage, be it a fast breeding, be it using any other tools. I don't want to go in detail because there are experts better than me. Dr. Beg is sitting over there, Dr. Keshaval is here. What is important today is the two things which is very critical, that looking at or striking a balance between protecting plant variety and the innovation together, and picking up certain best practices which exist in India, which can be adopted same way in Africa, looking at the common ground for the agronomic fitment, the suitability, and also the market, which is really important, right? Seed can be grown, but if there is no market, then the entire value chain will crumble at the last stage when the farmer produces, and then if it is not over there. The other important point is, there are, on the harmonization side of it, I think there are a lot of efforts which has been there, and I know that there is a Indo-Africa group is there which is just working. So the deliberations of this can be forwarded to them, citing that, look, this is the interest and this is the right time to move forward. It will also help in another manner in terms of pooling the resources together. Everybody talks about the collaboration. It's not necessary that I spend my all resources, all people, or India spend everything on one, and then avoid or not considering the fact that there is something similar which is being in place where you can collaborate. It will certainly help in advancing, developing the new varieties which can become accessible to the farmers. Now, just on the IP side of it, like any other country, India is also trying to strike a balance between plant variety, patents, and the innovation, which is crucial today. Everybody recognizes it, but also there is another consideration, in terms of what kind of agriculture is being practiced in different part of the world, right? Every country has a unique thing, but quality is the common. Protecting innovation is really truly essential. Otherwise, it can be a one time. It will not be sustainable, in terms of reinvesting it, protecting it, and sharing it, and ultimately how much benefit it will provide over there. So I'll take a pause over here and back to you, Raghavan.
Thank you, Mr. Rajveer. Okay, the key word from your brief is, yes, access to new varieties, new improved seeds is important, but at the same time, it is also need to be balanced with the developers' innovators' rights. So, Dr. Dadlani, coming over to you, how easy, from your experience, you have a wealth of experience behind you, how easy or difficult to balance the farmers' rights as well as the breeders' or innovators' right in practical terms? And what we can learn from other experiences across the world to improve India-Africa seed trade?
Thank you, Dr. Sampath Kumar. Good morning to everybody. See, the question relates to how, if all of us who were present yesterday would remember from the last session, we discussed about the situation with regard to intellectual property in Africa. Considering that, it's not going to be very, very easy. See, in Africa, as I understand, see, we have only three countries, Ghana, Kenya, and now Nigeria, who are members of the UPO. OAP is a member. I think ARIPO is also a member. And by default, some of those countries who are members of OAP or ARIPO, they consider themselves as members of UPO. But they may claim it. But the moment you see the UPO list, they are not listed as members, because they are not. OAP is a member as an organization. Now, there have been attempts within Africa to harmonize the regulations with relation to intellectual property. But they have felt resistance from the civil societies, largely because what they felt, the civil societies felt, the civil communities, they felt that the interest of the smallholder farmers is not being considered. Now, as Rajbir had mentioned, that the situation, and both of you had mentioned, that the situation of growing for farmers is more or less same there also, in Africa also, as in India also. I'm not saying, when I said about the African intellectual property system, I did not say at all that our Indian system is something very nice to look up to. No. Many countries I have visited and spoken to the people concerned, they still do not recognize the Indian system because it does not get aligned with the UPO. They only feel that you are giving more benefits, rights to the farmers, whereas they feel that it should be farmers' privileges or benefits, but not the rights. But we in India give rights. But then, see, I have always believed that these intellectual property regulations or policies are more designed to suit the political needs rather than the farmers' needs. And but then yesterday we also discussed about the efforts which are being made by ETG and several other groups to market the seeds for a lot of varieties of field crops as well as vegetable crops in Africa. They would be very useful there, but I would like to caution only one thing to all those people who are players in Africa as of now, is what Mr. Ram Kondinia had mentioned yesterday, that let it not be a one-way channel. It's not that we find Africa as a good market for our seeds, so we send the seeds there. But we should also build the capacities there for them to tomorrow come up as an exporter of seeds also. So it is not that we want to do only business there, but then also want to have a partnership, collaborationship, so that we both of us can come up together. Thank you.
Definitely, I couldn't agree with you more, Doctor, that most of the times, whether it is true or not, the discussion on IP turns political. But one thing is clear for any innovator. I mean, the countries, the regions can choose to do what they want to, but ultimately if they want to have investments, IPs need to be set right. So that is the agreement, I believe, among all the participants here, as well as that's a reality on the ground. Now, coming back to Dr. Jitendra Kumar, or coming to you first, of course, for the first time in this panel. We talked about policy and, yeah. So you represent a key institution in India which has been supporting innovation and helping or being a complementary factor to the private innovators and public sector innovator as well. So what do you think it is needed to replicate BIRAC in Africa, for example, to support the entire ecosystem, which not only benefits Africa, but Indian innovators also?
Thanks for that excellent question. First of all, I want to thank ICFA for this very, very important, very crucial workshop, conclave. First of all, I would like to tell something about my organization, BIRAC, so that many people may not know. We have come from outside. BIRAC is Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, and it is a public sector undertaking, or a company, to say in a shorter form, company formed by government and under the administrative control of Department of Biotechnology. Okay. Many of you might know, but many of you who have come from abroad and you may not know. So the prime focus of this government initiative is to nurture the startup ecosystem in the country, and it acts as an interface between the government and the industry, and also the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem, the market, the mentorship, mentors pool, etc. So what we have done so far is, it got established in 2012, so it's almost like 14, 15 years now. We have established around 100 BioNest incubation centers, bio-incubation centers, where startups can plug and play, and they can do their proof of concept. And let me tell you, many of them are from agriculture field, many of them are directly from seed business, or entrepreneurs in the seed side. These incubation centers not only provide the plug and play facility to these innovators, startup companies, but also acts as an interface between the bigger industries and the startups, so that some collaborations can happen. It also facilitates mentorship, funding, branding, networking, and any other support system to take these technologies forward with these entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs to make them successful. So in short, this is what BIRAC has been doing. And the startup ecosystem, it directly also supports, apart from creating an incubation center, it also supports through funding directly these startup companies and industries through a grant mode, through a revenue sharing or co-funding mechanism. So if we have to fund 70%, we expect 30% has to come from the industry side. And the funding is right from the beginning, the conception of the idea or ideation phase to the commercialization phase. So we have a lot of companies cutting across the whole biotechnology sector, and agriculture definitely is one of the major sector which we focus on. And that's why I thought I must be attending this conference. What it takes to create a BIRAC-like body in African countries. There are many countries in Southern Africa or Africa. So one could be, first of all, we have to create a platform, okay? And the platform can come through grassroots innovations or the stakeholders which are at the grassroots level, called startups. So if we, first to start with, let's say there is an equivalent incubation center in Africa, a BioNest center, where, and I'm sure that incubation centers are so common in many countries, I mean African countries also must have in many universities, etc. And create linkages between those incubation centers and some of these Indian incubation centers, okay? So it creates a linkage and it creates a platform. Now what this platform will do, This platform will create a mechanism for startups from India to go regularly and exchange with the other startups in Africa and vice versa. So the startup companies from Africa can come to India, explore Indian markets. The startups from India can explore African markets. And there can be soft lending options between these two countries. BIRAC can facilitate that. Okay. I can facilitate that because that's one of the policy that we already have, that we can provide soft lending options for many startups and industries from abroad. Okay? What it means, what is soft lending option? Soft lending option is to navigate the complex Indian scenario and market, we can provide you linkages with a particular incubation center which we run. There you can get office space, and then from this office space you can actually come to know many Indian situation and all that. It's a soft lending, so you don't have to actually establish a company. We can just provide for the time being, so that later you can establish the company. Because Indian market is a little complex, and for that you have to have some kind of office space here to understand. And then our incubation centers and BIRAC can help you, help that African countries to actually navigate the complex Indian market. Okay. Now, this is the basic level at which you can do, and then setting up a BIRAC-like body is a decision from the government of Africa and African countries. How do they want to create? BIRAC is always there to support. BIRAC is always there to support through best practices and how it got formed and what is the MOA or AOA, Memorandum of Article of Association, how it formed, etc. We can share. We can share all those documents to how it can be created, handhold. But for that to happen, we must have, first of all, the agreement between the government and government of African countries and India at that level, at the departmental level, and some kind of collaboration has to happen. So I think it can be done right from the beginning of the grassroots, as I said, linkages, and then government level. At both levels, we can work together to create such mechanisms.
Thanks, Doctor. In fact, see, this panel itself is actually a good platform. Yes. Where we have a supporter of innovation, we have experienced veterans in the industry, company dealing in the seeds and traits, a company which is working end-to-end, and an association. I think this is the kind of platform we need to establish. First of all, the opportunities in Africa must be visible to Indian and vice versa as well. This is actually some of the points, these are some of the points discussed yesterday as well. And thank you, Doctor. I think we from the biotech industries really appreciate BIRAC's role.
I'll give you one example if you give me some time, because this is very important. There's something called African berry. And there is a protein-based sugar, not sugar, but protein which is sweet, which is formed in small amounts in this African berry. One company in India, Hyderabad-based company, Revelations Biotech, has actually cloned that gene and expressed in microbial system to produce brezinin. Brezinin is the protein I said, which is sweet. You can imagine the implication it has. And it's not that brezinin was not known earlier. It was known, but nobody could produce it at the commercial level. This person has cloned in a most efficient way and it's producing at the commercial level. Can you imagine the implication it has? Means it will not raise your glycemic index. So diabetic countries like India, for that it's a gift from Africa. And we can export to whole globe actually. This person we have funded in the biomanufacturing scheme launched by Government of India, Department of Biotechnology. We have funded this company. And you can see that protein going to the diets, not the sugar, no disease, no diabetes. You will build your body actually. It's bodybuilders, boon for bodybuilders also, for common people also. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. That's an interesting example. Of course, I'm not a bodybuilder, but I'm definitely going to be a potential customer for that startup. because the fact is, India is the diabetic capital of the world right now. And any option, or this is a fantastic opportunity for anyone who is going to innovate like this. And coming back to Dr. Ayad. So you have, in your brief, you mentioned about challenges. Now, what do you think we can do? Two things on priority basis between India and African continent as a whole. It may not be as a whole, but at least regional terms. What two things on priority we can do to move to the next step of ease of doing business, increasing ease of doing business between these two big regions?
Thank you so much. This is a very interesting question. And maybe I can take you just think together when you go and travel in Africa about the farmers. Well, I'm pretty sure many of you have been attending events like maybe the Nane Nane or maybe in Kenya or in other places. And you look at the farmers, and what do you see? Probably 85% are ladies coming to the event or coming to the shop, carrying their baby on their back, and they are basically looking to buy seeds for a land that's probably 100 square meters, maybe 500 square meters, and that's it. And what are they doing? So they buy these seeds, they grow the crop, they harvest, let's take it, maize or corn, and they store it for their food. This is maybe you tried the ugali or some of the, the African foods that you see that's coming out of corn or cassava or any other crop. So this represents probably 85% of the farmers across Africa. And these are our customers. And I always like to bring this because it's important for everybody to know that this is actually the audience. This is the people who we are reaching for, and we are trying to find solutions for them to really, they need to decide on buying the seeds, producing more so that they can actually feed their family. So this is the start. And if we zoom out, and I was actually reading just when I started preparing to come to here, about the India-Africa trade. And the numbers are really impressive. The Africa-India trade is standing at about, in 2024, at about $83 billion US. 83 billion. Of which 45 are exported from India to Africa. And Africa and India is importing 38 billion from different countries in Africa. So this 45 billion, what is India exporting? So you see a lot is going into chemicals that like detergents, different types of chemicals. You see a little bit of defense, which is another subject. Then also you see machinery in terms of cars, trucks, pickups, motorcycles, and so on. Agrochemicals is showing there. I looked for seeds, to be absolutely frank. I was trying to find what is the numbers of seeds actually being exported. And I can tell you it was not in the top 20 or something of the products that are exported from India to Africa. And if we look on the other way around, so India is importing mainly oil, so crude oil and crude oil from Africa. Then you find things like gold. Gold is very important in India, and many is coming from Africa. And there were a list of things. And in the agriculture part, actually the biggest imports were products like cashew, which was more than 7 billion. This was interesting for me to know. There was also coffee, cocoa, and in let's say in the commodities business, it was sesame. Pulses are going back and forth, lots of industry. And so this is the situation. This is where we are. And I wanted to share this because I think it's a huge opportunity for Indian companies to come and invest in Africa. And thinking about priorities, so coming back to your questions, one of the things is actually for the Indian companies to really partner with African companies that are in the market, that are able to reach the farmer, that are able to serve these customers. So these ladies coming with their child on their back to buy simple things, for their food. So this is one point. And again, trying to build the proper portfolio. So breeding for African needs. and not trying to push the portfolio. And one of the priorities, of course, is harmonization. And definitely we have to work hard here. We have our colleagues from AFSTA, we have friends from all the countries are here from Africa and India on harmonization to ease the flow of business. I mean, the heart of this gathering is to increase the trade and enable better trade, easier resilience, which is very important. So finding ways of harmonization of the laws and regulations to allow for smooth trade and transfer of seeds. Because, at the end we're talking about food security, we're talking about livelihood of people, and this seed is the start. So we need really to push for this harmonization to make it easier for the flow of seeds. Thank you.
Great. In fact, it's quite insightful in terms of the portfolio or the range of things that are getting exchanged between Africa and India, and thanks for that. And by the way, from that comment, I can take that it is imperative for us to move seeds from somewhere below to the top 10. That is the first, probably our goal should be. And definitely you are right. The associations at some level, we can definitely play a role in terms of getting the right stakeholders on the table and discuss the priorities for both the countries. And it is I can visualize the lady with a child on her lap or on her back. It's the same case in India also, many times. So, coming back to Mr. Rajveer, having heard the people here, do you, what's your take on the priorities to be addressed between India and Africa in terms of seed? I don't say seed trade, but collaboration, seed collaboration.
If you ask me, it's simple. And I'm using the word simple. Let me explain why I use the word simple when it comes to, giving some outcome-based real pointers. When I joined the agriculture, course as a profession, it all started with global warming, right? Later on, it changed to climate change, and a lot of things has come over there. Number one. Number two, I think we should stop discussing and stop debating on the challenges. You take any conference and everything, for the last 20 years, I can say we spend 60% of our time talking about the challenges, right? So what we should do? Very clearly, very specific. We all know that the challenges. We know the what part of it. What is needed? Like everyone has said it that, we need to collaborate, we need to harmonize, we need to respect, we need to understand the need, and we need to breed for X, Y, G reason. Fantastic. And if you look at the collective experience, wisdom, global access to what is being happening X, Y, Z places specific to India and Africa, let's focus on the how part of it. Based on collectively where we have reached today, either it's speed breeding, developing new varieties suitable for large geographies and specific geographies and also introducing specific traits. Also seeing that how the intellectual property can be protected, either it's absolute patent or plant variety, or what are the other mechanisms which are being available over there. How we simplify the procedures, right? Seed being produced and developed over here, which can be found suitable in any of the part of the Africa, that how it can be made easily available, as you rightly said, that how we reduce the time in the transit. It's a living material, a living material, especially seed, is the one which is being loved by most of the microorganisms and insects, it's countless, it's thousands, right? If you look at microbes, if you look at the insects and other things. So how to ensure that the seed reaches to the farmer's field in the form from where it has been started over there. The other important thing I want to highlight is that when it comes to PP and FRA or plant protection variety, like free trade associations or free trade agreements which two countries does it, why not also collaborate in terms of when the plant protection variety, if it is suitable? Why there is a need to duplicate it? Why to put additional resource to verify or to spend time on that when we already knew that it's going to be the same one over here? So in essence, I think we have to change the narrative rather than just sticking ourselves on the challenges, we know it, on the how part of it, that how we can achieve that based on the journey we had covered so far. I think I may not be wrong if I can say that we had crossed 50 percentile, right? On an average, there could be somewhere 49, there could be 70% in certain areas. The details of import and export you had just mentioned. Why not we build upon that and see that what are the constraints over there, not the challenges. What are the constraints which need to be addressed? And if it is need to be addressed, whether it's an administrative, whether it's a regulatory, whether it's an IP, whether it's a logistic, whether it's a storage, whether it is, and so on and so forth. I think everyone is expert in this hall. So these are the three things, Raghavan, from my perspective. So.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Rajiv. I think you reflected the actual concern of anyone who is willing to look at Africa as a potential, not really a market, but a potential place for collaboration. Now, are we doing good with time? Excuse me? Yes. Okay. 10 more minutes, okay. Right.
Fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now to Dr. Dadlani. So, from your experience, how or in which stage between India and Africa in terms of collaboration we are? Are we at the nascent stage or intermediate, or I'm sure it could be somewhere in between, but what's your reflection on that? How we can move it to the level of much higher levels?
I would say only one thing. Yesterday I had mentioned about an experiment which was started, which was India-Africa Seed Bridge. That was a program of Syngenta Foundation, and they did it very well in Africa, where the Indians companies could send their material to be tested and to be accepted there. As it was being discussed, our conditions being more or less similar, and our seeds will also do well there. I would suggest, and then Dr. Jitendra Kumar mentioned about the BRAC's efforts, and also to support programs in Africa or elsewhere, anywhere outside India. So what I would suggest is there should be a special purpose vehicle created which should cash on the experience and knowledge of those who are the players who are already there in Africa, and understand, I would not call them the challenges, as Rajveer said, that's a dirty word now. But then understand what are the concerns of the various people. We may not be able to reach the ultimate in terms of finding the best solution or best practice. But if we can improve upon the situation in Africa, and as well as help them with whether we like it or not, Indian seed industry is much more matured and has a lot of things to offer to Africa as of now. And if they can also welcome this knowledge or experience, plus if we can, because BIRAC is already there, so if the government can set up a special purpose vehicle along with the governments in Africa, taking into consideration that there are already several regional groups, ECOWAS, COMESA or whatever, who are doing excellent work, but they are working for a particular purpose. So similarly, for this purpose also, if we can join hands with them or take them on board and share the knowledge and experience with them and create something, that will be excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. The how part is becoming more clear, right? It's becoming more visible, and especially quite in terms of actionable outcome of this event. So if you can allow me, just go to Dr. Jitendra Kumar for his last comments on your potential wish list for enhancing India Africa Seed Collaboration?
Wish list. Wow, that's a great word. So wish list, definitely there are many wish lists, but all these wish lists should actually work together to create a very encumbrance-free flow trade between African countries and India. That is a crux. So how we can do it? Definitely, I've said it earlier, and Dr. Dadlani also said, a special purpose vehicle to actually take care of any, barriers that it should take care. That could be one from the government side. The other side is there are many, genetic traits in the plants, varieties, flora and fauna in Africa, because it being a primary center of origin for many crops, it's a hotspot, biological diversity hotspot. And with the Department of Biotechnology's, genetic analysis program that you must have known, genome analysis program that they're conducting, I think it can be extended to Africa also to identify the most important, commercially important genetic traits which may not be there in our Indian population pool, and vice versa, of course. And then try to see if we can, clone those genetic genes, etc. The African berry example I gave, but there may be many. There may be many such examples which will benefit both the countries. And definitely, I am a firm believer of community rights, farmers, rights, varieties, plant varieties, and community rights. And people who have protected those varieties where these, genetic traits are there, we should actually give equity to those communities. The Biological Diversity Act talks about it in our country. And therefore, I think it is very important that unless those trade flows very smoothly and there's a cultural exchange and acceptance of, best practices, varieties and plants, agriculture practices and cultural exchanges and more closer phenomena, I think it will be this is my wish list, that if Africa and India has to collaborate, it has to happen at many fronts. Like the way we talk about US-India, for example. I mean, every other day we say there's a conference and there's an invite from, US to Indian government that you come, and a lot of delegations come from US and India and etc. Similarly, I think those type of intense programs have to be created at many levels. And then I think things will happen. I am very sure that this type of conference has to happen many more frequently. But at the same time, many other types of engagements have to happen.
Great. Thank you, Doctor.
Ma'am, if you can allow, I think we have time. So just one thing, it's a request to consider, and it's a genuine request, especially to ICFA and Dr. Narayan Swamy is here. I think whatever has been deliberated over here, and I think what's being eluded over here, stress the need to be addressed. If you can identify 5 to 7 key actionable items and just see whether it's in seed exchange, whether it's in R&D, it's in commercial collaboration, whether it's a phytosanitary or whatever it is over there. And everything is at a different stage, at a scale of 1 to 10. Somewhere it is 5, somewhere it's 6, somewhere it's beginning, maybe in the case of an IP, PPUFRA. And the reason I'm saying is that when we meet again, maybe in a year or whatever time frame is, we will start with that look, we discussed those things and agreed upon that, what's the progress being made over there. Otherwise, it will again become an academic exercise. So, thank you.
Right.
Can I just
Yes,
say
please.
something? Now, I just wanted to say the interest in this particular space, the India-Africa collaborations, is reflected by the number of people who have come in after the session started. Now I find that the whole hall is full. That shows the interest of the people to come here. I have myself addressed conventions and conferences with only 15, 16 people sitting in the hall, a big hall. But then today we started with a lot of people, and I'm very happy that we are at least finishing with the house full. Thank you so much for your believing in India-Africa partnerships. Thank you.
Sure. So I hope I lived up to my own expectation of speaking less. But to finish, we have 4 pillars: technology, policy, people, and institutions, which, as Rajveer said, we have to just formulate into action plans of, say, 5 to 7 top priorities. And I thank every panelist for your insightful remarks, and also ICFA for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think that was a great start. Can we please give a huge round of applause? Fantastic session 1, day 2, India-Africa Seed Summit. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let me invite on stage Mr. Arish Hussain. Mr. Ayad Takrauri, Head ETG Agri Inputs. Can we please keep clapping? Mr. Rajveer Rathi, Vice Chairman, FSII. Rajveer Rathi, Vice Chairman, FSII. Please keep clapping. Thank you. Mr. Narendra Dadlani, former Technical Director, APSA Seeds. Please keep clapping. Dr. Jitendra Kumar, Managing Director, BIRAC. So, ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, Mr. Raghavan Sampath Kumar, Executive Director, FSII, for moderating the session in such a fantastic manner. Thank you very much. So, I request the panel members for a group picture, please. Yeah, for a group picture. Thank you very much.